Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we'll be reading the story For the World We're Gonna Make by Ingi. I hope I said that right. Read by Red Loves Blue. Okay. The summary. God of Thunder, I know you too. I know what you seek, what you all seek. But you are not strong enough to wield all 6 of us. I do not intend to, Thor replies, heart in his throat. Not at once. Or, Thor wields the gauntlet. I love this. I'm genuinely excited to, read it. Okay. Let's get right into it. At the end, there is dawn. Thor goes back to the bloodied rubble that was the Avengers' compound not so long ago, and watches the sun rise, Stormbreaker by him. There are blues and purples and pinks, and Thor sees them blend into one another until there's only the bright blue sky. The gauntlet of Stark's armor, infinity stones and all, rests on his lap. In the middle of the frenzy of Stark's funeral preparations, no one had bothered to guard his armor. It was shoved in what was left of one of Stark's own safes, waiting for the moment one of them could spare half a mind to take the stones back to the past, and it came willingly to Thor's hand after the safe was broken by Stormbreaker. Thor doesn't understand the stones nearly as well as Thanos and other beings like him, but somehow, at the same time, knows them in ways that they would never be able to comprehend. There were more than enough tales of their sentience back in Asgard. The stones want to be used. They're old, and they're bored, and they're lonely. They took his brother from him. They took his people. There is no peace, no end to the grief filling his mind with fog for years. He killed Thanos once with his own axe and felt nothing. He watched him being killed a second time, and there was only emptiness. What they've won after Stark's sacrifice is a victory of sorts, but it serves Thor little. Nothing he's ever lost had been regained. He's as alone as when he started, except for the voices in his head. He can see his mother's face so much more clearly than he has in years. Hear her saying, "Is this really who you are, son?" And from behind her comes the whisper of a voice. Loki's soft, "Brother, the sun will shine on us again." But the sun rises, and Thor is alone. If he traces the space stone on the gauntlet with his fingertips just so, it thrums with the echo of Loki's sacrifice. The stones, they know him. "Show us who you really are, Thor," says Mother, and the barely formed thought that drove him to take the gauntlet slowly solidifies, turns into something he's almost too afraid to think about. Hope is a dangerous thing. Thor's never lacked bravery of all things, but in this, he hesitates. "Brother," comes another echo of Loki's voice. Some things can never be brought back, Thor knows. But others? He presses his thumb against the reality stone, hard enough that the imprint of it might be on his fingertip for the rest of his days. The world is suddenly tinged red, and Thor feels as easily molded as wet sand, and just as vulnerable to any wave of power. "I knew you as the Aether," he says out loud, because there's invisible eyes on him, somehow. The landscape in front of him undulates and shifts into a vision of him in Asgard, then Savathim, then Midgard. My Jane Foster was your host." Another undulation of the landscape, and there's Jane, or a blurry vision of her, standing right in front of him and looking just like the last time he saw her. She watches him with dark brown eyes, a red glint revealing their true nature. "I know you," he repeats, and the vision smiles. "God of Thunder," says Jane's voice, "I know you, too. I know what you seek, what you all seek, but you are not strong enough to wield all 6 of us." "I do not intend to," Thor replies, heart in his throat. Jane is one of those things that he can never recover. He knows this well enough. And yet, not at once. Not strong enough for that either. Not quite. Not all of us. I can allow you to wield me freely, but there will be a price. My nature does not easily allow for what you desire. You want me to use you. And he says it. It becomes a certainty, almost as if the stone were making it so. But Thor recognized his own hand in this. It's in his nature, that which he believes becoming truth. This is not what you really are. You're fluid, ever-changing. You must resent this form more than you will resent me for what I will use you for. If you have me as your host, you will have your true form back. The Aether regards him from Jane's body, almost thoughtfully. "I will take your life force either way," she says. "I will kill you like I would have killed your Jane Foster." Without quite meaning to, Thor smiles, wide and honest. It feels as unfamiliar now, as common it used to be, once upon a time. "I am an Asgardian, as close to immortal as any being can be. It will take you quite a long time." He reaches out to the vision of Jane, and she takes his hand in her own. It's like breathing in the stars. She leans in and kisses him. When Thor opens his eyes again, she's gone, as is the red tinge turning the world bloody. He looks down at the gauntlet, and there's an obvious space on the ring finger, and Thor has never felt stronger. So he thinks of Nidavellir, and reality undulates once again, and this time he's standing in front of the forge. "Show us." He puts the gauntlet down and works for what feels like days and seconds at the same time, setting each of the leftover stones in different ring with his bare hands. There's lightning wrapped around his arms and fingers, but it does not belong to him. It's all from the reality stone. It's borrowed power, nothing more. But sometimes that's enough. Brother, the sun always shines brighter after a stone. Sometimes that's all you need. Thor slips each ring into a finger of his right hand, and Nidavellir dissolves around him. His left thumb presses on the space stone. "My brother died for you," he says to it. "More than once, you could say." "Yes, I know you," it replies into his mind. Its voice is strangely feminine and sharper than a blade. It sounds like Loki whenever he shape-shifted into a woman, always on the verge of mischief. "You would make a strong weapon, a worthy one." Thor considers this for a moment. This one he might know how to handle best. How about some space travel instead? The place in Yggdrasil, where Asgard used to be, there's only emptiness now. It's not right. Thor floats in space like it belongs to him, although he knows better now than his father used to at the same age. There's no need to breathe conveniently, because Thor would not be able to even if he needed to. He draws from the power of the Aether in him, but he already knows that it won't be enough. The rings in his hand seemed to stare at him, mocking. It will be more than he was hoping to have to use at once, but it will not kill him. Probably. "Show us," says Mother and Jane and Loki. Almost at once, but not quite. "Show us who you are." He touches the Power Stone. It glows purple, alongside the blue on the nearby ring, and the red under his skin. "We have not yet met," Thor says. "I am Thor, god of thunder. What you seek to use me for, I have never been used for before," is his answer. "You're capable of sustaining creation as well as destruction." "Yes, I remember being used for protection once. 4 beings you met shared me as one." And Thor sees the Lord of the Stars, Thanos' green daughter, the rabbit, and the warrior. They hold hands as everything they are made of is blown apart by purple light. The stone feels curious. That would be the closest word. It wants to see what it is capable of when there's nothing to destroy. "I shall show you," Thor says. The world turns red, purple, and blue, just the kind of dawn that new Asgard deserves. Brother, the sun. Thor has Asgard in his bones, in his blood. There is no other place that he remembers in as much detail. The Aether needs nothing else to do as Thor is willing it to. The power that it draws from the Power Stone is almost too great for Thor to bear, and it blazes red hot through his body. But there is little he would not endure for this. Reality shimmers, bends, then snaps. A wave of purple and red floods Thor's vision for an instant, blinding him. When it recedes, Asgard is before him, just as he remembered it, and the stones are vibrating in the rings. The Aether consumes the remains of power that are now almost suffocating him, likely sparing several centuries of his life. It can be done. It can be done. In a blaze of blue, he leaves for Midgard. Thanos' daughters have set up camp somewhere in the ruins of the Avengers compound, much like most others who fought. The Space Stone does not need Thor to know of their exact location to find them, which is fortunate, because Thor suspects he cannot simply ask someone else. Midgardians are so much more than Loki or even Father ever understood, but they would take longer to grasp the situation than time Thor had to spare, and Thor expects much of the same from the others. The stone teleports him in the center of their improvised camp, but the Aether keeps him shielded. They are dwelling as close to the so-called Guardians of the Galaxy as they can possibly be without joining them. It will suit Thor's purposes well enough. This is his next task, because it is, in some ways, another test of his strength. But it is also the easiest thing that he possibly could do. The Mind Stone is the only other Infinity Stone to know his brother, and so Thor knows it too. His mother did think it had been influencing Loki, almost as much as Thanos himself, amplifying his hatred and desire for conflict, which means its will might be more malicious than that of the other stones. But that was then. It has known love now, as well, or so he's seen. "We have met many times before," he says, rubbing the yellow stone with his thumb, and the Aether cloaks his words so that Thanos' daughters may not hear yet him. "You had my brother within your grasp, and then I knew you as Vision. I helped you be born." "I remember," the voice of the Vision says, sounding almost baffled. Thor grins. Life always leaves an imprint. but you are not strong enough to wield me. My mind is not my strongest attribute, Thor admits generously. But I know much about people, and I will give you vision again, he adds, because all that was once born aspires to be born again. You cannot give me vision without the soul stone. Vision is not only mind. I will give you vision, Thor repeats. I know you, brother, Vision, Wanda, Pietro. Help me use you for this, and I will give you back what you lost. You will be loved again. The Mind Stone is silent for a long time. Then, so slowly that it would be easy to miss if he weren't already looking, the yellow stone begins to glow. All others stay dull, even as the Aether runs through his veins. But that is all right. There is only one stone he needs for this. He uncloaks himself to Lady Gamora. She doesn't notice the rings, or the red glow under his skin. Her eyes have been troubled ever since she came from the past, and there's not much that can make someone look through that fog. Thor knows. She walks towards him when she sees him, away from her blue sister, who keeps on untangling the wiring inside her left arm. They got the chance that Thor didn't. Not quite. Not for long. And it burns, but in its due time. Everything in its due time. That Thor's not willing to risk. I've heard we've met before, she says, examining him with clear suspicion. Aye, Lady Gamora, Thor replies, smiling winningly at her. That only seems to displease her further. Although I understand you have lost a great deal of memory, so I will not be offended if you do not remember. I won't call it losing memories as much as not making them. May I speak frankly, Lady Gamora? You're glowing. Is that normal? She says, eyes narrowed. You suffered a great loss, much greater than you could possibly know. The Mind Stone whispers something in the back of his head, too quiet to hear. There's things Thor knows suddenly that he does not remember knowing an instant ago. The Peter Quill in your future loved you enough to kill you when you asked. He loved you enough to condemn the entire universe for a chance to kill the being who betrayed you with his own hands. In Asgard, we write songs about that kind of love. We have, in fact, several thousands. The Lady Gamora regards him for a moment, processing his words. Her gaze then turns to the Lord of the Stars, not too far behind them, who keeps missing the tumbleweed that the tree is tossing at him as some sort of ball game. As they watch, it hits him in the face, as hard as tumbleweed reinforced by tree branches can possibly hit anyone. The rabbit laughs and claps. He sounds like an idiot, she decides, but Thor learned better than to believe those sort of statements centuries ago, at least when they are accompanied by the expression Gamora is skillfully hiding. Although not skillfully enough for the brother of Loki. Scrawny too. That he is. Would you like to remember him? And your family? Who? The morons, Thor explains, pointing at the group behind them. I would like to know what's going on, she replies with a scowl. The Mind Stone vibrates in its ring, and it whispers to Thor that which he does not need to be told. This is something that must be fixed. Lady Gamora has lost most of her family, and Thor knows how that feels all too well. He reaches out, and before Lady Gamora can stab him with the dagger she's pulling out of under her jacket, grabs her wrist. Remember, he says in the voice of the Mind Stone, which now sounds like Peter Quill. As understanding fills her eyes, the world is painted in yellow. There's no more concern for Thor's red glow or any other of her previous worries. She turns and runs. In the distance, Peter Quill lifts his head and meets her eyes with his, which widen in painful hope as she reaches him. Thor bows his head and lets the space stone take him away. Okay, I'm gonna leave it off there. I was initially thinking about, just getting it all out in one go, but no can do. So this is just part 2 is gonna be released soon enough. So yeah, go ahead and leave a little kudos to the author, and be ready for part 2 that's coming out as soon as I finish recording it and edit. So have a good day, night, or whatever other time. Bye.